to the spine edge. I don't know if you can see if I tilt it up a little bit. See that shadow?
Maybe if we made it a little darker in here or something.
See if I can get a good angle. Sometimes the camera doesn't pick it up, but right below the top staple, there is a bend that goes right here. Now it's about an eighth, maybe it's about an eighth of an inch. It doesn't break color, and that would be a defect that would be allowed in the 9/8 grade range. So at 10.0, obviously it's perfect. No flaws, not even manufacturing flaws. Then if you get to a 9.9, a 9.9 will usually just have a manufacturing defect, not a handling defect or environmental impact defect. 9/8s, we will allow certain types of handling defects, like spine stress, for example. You can have up to 3 non-color breaking spine stress lines on a spine in 9.8. This right here is just an example of one, and I really wish, you guys can feel free to, when we're done, if you want to come up and take a closer look, you're more than welcome. And then, so there's the spine. And that's not just spine stress, because there will be certain defects that still will be allowed in a 9.8, like a corner bend, a finger bend. Bindery tears. Bindery tears are really common, especially at newer books. DCs are really prone to that with the cardstock high gloss covers. Right here, there's another example, if you can see it. I'm doing this backwards, so I'm trying to like. Can you see that top corner right there? So there is a bit of a dog-ear corner on that, so it's a little slight bend. It doesn't break color. It doesn't really take away the overall eye appeal of the book, but it's up right there in that corner. That would be something that would still be allowed in 9.8 range. Any questions so far? Feel free to raise your hand if you guys have any questions while I'm doing this. Then the tricky part is when you get to the 9.6 range. Can you hear me when I'm talking away from the mic? I do have a loud voice naturally. I'll pull the mic closer. Is that better? Okay. So now when you get to the 9.6, you're going to allow even more defects. This is where you can have spine stress lines or small creases that break color. That's what's going to take it out of the 9.8 range, bring it down to the 9.4, 9.6 range. This particular one. See that small color crease that breaks color? That would be something that's still allowed in a 9.6. We see a lot of these because most books from this time period, a lot of them weren't back in order, they were split boxes. So this is from being pushed down in a long box, being stored in somebody's closet for forever. This one was pretty heavy, as you can see the color breakage line. But that's something that would be allowed in a 9.6. Yes?
Is it possible to like zoom in?
Yeah, do you know? Sorry, this is actually my technical assistant. Is that better?
Oh, yes.
There you go. Now you can see it, right? Okay. Thank you.
You can dim the lights a little bit too. No, red lights.
No, dim the lights in the room.
Yeah. No.
Most people are scared to talk. There we go.
Now we're set.
Keep going.
So yeah, this would be something that would be allowed.
There we go.
Now you can see it. And then once you see it, it pops out. It's one of those things too where it might even be a little hidden in the bag, but once you take it out and you see it, you see that color grade line, you can't unsee it after that.
Now, how many of those can you have to still get a 9.6?
Depends on the size.
Okay.
You can have a few if they're about a 1/16 of an inch, but once you get to about the 1/8 inch mark, it breaks color, that's kind of your cutoff point. Then you're going to go down to the 9.4 range.
Got you. Okay.
This one. Now, this is going to be a defect that we see very common on a lot of books. And I'm hoping we can actually see it if I tilt this. I'm trying to get a good angle. So right here along this right edge, we have a cluster of what we call finger bends. And that's from somebody opening up the book to go page through, and as they pull the cover open, they put a pressure point on the right side, which is always on the open end of the book. This has a cluster of them. You can't really see it on this camera, unfortunately, but there are about 4 or 5 of them, and they're all centralized. And again, like I said, you guys want to come and see afterwards. I'll show them. I'll line them up here on the table if you want to take closer looks. Once you get, you're allowed to have a certain number of finger bends in the 9.6, even 9.8 range. But when you get to a cluster, when it's 4 or higher, that's usually when you're going to start looking in the 9.4 range. Any questions so far? So we do have a couple of giveaways. I usually come with some type of trivia questions, so I'm just going to wing it because we didn't have them this time. What's the highest value comic book in existence?
Action 1.
Yeah, Action 1. Oh, if you look in the back of the room over there, we were blessed with a fellow graders. We've got some 2 graders over there, it's Justin and Angela. They took some time out of the on-site grading experience to come and make fun of me and hold up signs.
Who's your favorite coworker?
How would you grade them?
Hold on.
Justin, you're always my number 1. You're my 10. So now I'm going to show you something. It's going to be a little different, and it's going to be painful. I usually would bring a book that, something that we see sometimes in the office where somebody goes to cut open a box and you ordered a book off of eBay and it's raw and you go to cut the box open. I retired that book because I was breaking too many arts. Because the slice went through about half the book and the cover. A slice that size, you're talking automatically in the 6 range. Automatically going to be in the fine range, and we see that unfortunately often. But this is another one that we see. So again, not for the faint of heart. Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Finish what you were saying. Okay. So Tom DeFalco told me a funny story about, like, he asked me to get my books out of the sleeve for him because he doesn't like to handle
Yes.
stuff. And he said the reason being was Stan Lee was going to sign a Fantastic Four #1 for somebody. It caught the tape on the plastic, ripped the cover, and Stan was mortified, but the guy was cool about it. He said, that's fine, just write ripped by Stan Lee. How would you grade a ripped by Stan Lee? Would that be okay?
I mean, that would be funny to put something like that in the label, but we would still have to downgrade for it, unfortunately. But if Stan signed it, we could do, signed and torn by Stan Lee.
Yeah.
That's something I would definitely do.
There are only 3 known existence. The other 12 are being disputed.
But this is why, like, during the weekend, I do meet the graders. We come, you can bring books, and I'll set some grades for you at the booth. My next one is 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock today. But you can bring books, and one of the first things I do, you'll notice, I rip the tape off. I don't want the tape anywhere near the books. Tape is our enemy, and this is the exact reason why. And the worst part is, there's the cover. Yep, and we see it all too often. Because it only takes one moment to stop as you're sliding out of the bag. As soon as you stop and that flat rests on the book, boom. Now, anybody have an idea? Say the book was a 9.8. Anybody have an idea what grade range this would be with about a 1-inch tape pull on the cover?
6.
Close. You'd be surprised. A 1-inch tape pull. If the book is a 9.8 otherwise, you're probably looking at about a 6.5 or a 7 right off the bat. So it's a heavy hit, especially if you have a really high grade book. So just beware when you guys pull your books out of your bags. Just always be mindful of tape.
One other question. The sleeves I use now, they have like the pre-set adhesive, like you take the plastic off the
Yes.
set. It seems to me like that adhesive is made to where it's not going to do anything to the book. Like it's specifically designed.
It will though. It will. It will. For your newer books that have like glossy covers, you're not at much risk. But like for Marvel books now, the cover stock they use, the type of paper, it's susceptible to any type of adhesive. We've had books where we get them where the entire top bar, you just see a strip of tape going across the book. It's basically when you take it out of the bag and you put the bag on top of the book, if that flap's not bent down over that adhesive seal, that whole sticker line is going to stick to the book and peel it off. Yes?
What's the best kind of light to actually see whether there's adhesive on the cover or not?
Daylight, natural daylight is probably your best source. Usually the lighting inside the convention floors isn't the greatest. I usually like to bring a lamp that's got somewhat of a not so yellow color, because if you have like a yellow regular light bulb, it's kind of hard to differentiate the H quality. and then everything's gonna look off-white instead of white pages. So yeah, use as much daylight as you can, and I like to use like the daylight LEDs, and then you just tilt it at an angle, and you can see the glare. And as soon as you hit a point of the book where it becomes like almost like natty looking, that's where the adhesive would be stuck to it. Yes.
A group of Silver Age marbles years ago that were very nice but had 3-hole punches in them. What would,
Binder punches?
yeah.
Yeah.
No. He had put them in a 3-ring binder.
Yeah, so he would hole punch them?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we would downgrade quite a bit for that.
Sure.
So you'd be probably looking right off that. Anybody have a guess?
3, 4.
In the 4s. Yeah, usually stuff like that will start about at 4 or 5, maybe a 5 depending on the rest of the book. If it's an older book, most likely it would probably be in the 4s. Yes.
Would that go same with the older books where they cut the covers off and send it back in for credit?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we actually do grade a lot of coverless books. So people will send us just the guts of a book, and some books too are just still worth it, even with just the book itself without the cover. They would rip the covers off. And we've done the covers themselves, and we've done the guts of them as well. Yes.
Are you going to talk about like stamps and stuff like that?
Yeah. So,
stores and so on?
do you have a particular question about like, how does that affect our grading?
Like how's that grade? I don't understand.
Okay,
that
yeah.
grade.
So date stamps and arrival stamps, and people like the marks when they arrived at the store, they would take a charcoal pencil or a grease pencil, or even just a store stamp. In books from like the 60s and 70s, a common practice, so we don't downgrade for it. It doesn't take that big of a hit. If it's a newer book, probably like an 80s book, I know that they kind of tapered off around the 80s, but you'd probably be looking at like a 9.6. Now, if it's like a store stamp, for like newer books like Free Comic Day, when they stamp it with the comic store stamp, that's something that we would either downgrade for or we'd qualify. Anybody familiar with our qualified label? So it's a green label, and it's basically stating that the book is a 9.8 other than this qualifying factor, which would be a stamp on the cover. So we'll give a different label so we won't downgrade for it, it won't count against the grade.
Does it depend on the stamp for the comic book store? Like if it were Jade and Silent Bob's Secret Stash?
That's pretty cool. No, it doesn't matter. If it's an arrival stamp or a date stamp, that would be different. We would not downgrade for it, but a store stamp, regardless of where it came from, we would have to downgrade for it.
So no matter what era it's from, it would normally be downgraded?
Usually, if Silver Age and Golden Age, that's common practice for this.
Right.
Usually, it really only affects it when you're talking about the modern age books. Somebody else have a question?
I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just going back just a little bit to when you talked about the finger bends and stuff like that on the book, you were saying like, depending, I guess, there's only a few things, it would be like a 9.4. On a particular book, when you have something like that written in the reader's notes, is it something, in other words, I guess you'll leave things out, where in other words, like I have like a book that's the only thing it said, and I got a 9.0 on it. So it just said finger bends, and it said 9.0, so it,
If it's a 9.0, they're probably all over the entire cover, the surface of the cover. They're probably scattered all throughout the cover for it to be a 9. We will, for the most part, put notes in the system that is the main reason why the book is what it got. Like an 8.5, stain, 1-inch crease, something like that. We'll put those determining factors in the notes for you. If it's general wear, we're kind of a little nondescript, or we're a little looser about that kind of stuff. But yeah, if it's a 9.0 finger bends, that means it's probably at least a cluster of probably 8 to 10.
Stamp follow-up. So I've got on FF 48, 49, not the original store, but the secondary store that I went to buy it, right? So over Corbett's comic stuff. Does that stamp downgraded or
How big is it?
decent size stamp?
Decent size. It might, I mean, if the book is in the 9.4 lower, most likely will have no effect. If you're talking about a 9.6, 9.8, it probably will have an effect, but it won't drop it down lower than a 9.2.
Okay, thank you.
One more.
Yes?
Date stamps, get back there real quick. Is there a grading difference? Is it coming through the most paint stamp the color, and then sometimes you get like a smear, or kind of, you know, it's more of a smeared? I mean,
Yeah, if it smears and there's a smudge across it, we will downgrade for like a substance.
Yeah.
But if it's centralized and it's a date stamp or just a marking with a charcoal pencil, it won't affect the grade at all. But yes, if it is smeared, same thing with the signature too. If the signature is smeared and it goes away from the sign on the book.
and I'm talking about the hand stamp.
The hand stamp, yeah. If the ink, if there is a smear on the ink, we will downgrade for it. All right, so. This is going to be an example, and these are all These are all custom damaged by me. So it was one very painful thing for me to do. I had to sit here with a stack of books and purposely damage them. And I'm doing it in the grading room, and the look on some of the people's faces in the grading room. I have one guy who just couldn't even watch me do it. I was bending over. This particular one is kind of cathartic in a way, because these are books that we own, they're not customers' books, by the way. That's a disclaimer. So now this particular book, look at that. So that's about 1.5 inches. The rest of the book is 90. It's beautiful. These are all gorgeous books, but that was a dog-eared corner that we flattened back out, and you can see the coloring is completely gone on that crease. A crease that size on a 9/8, that's about anywhere from 1.5 inches to 2 inches, would automatically start the book at an 8.0. That's such a big hit. A crease like that breaks color. You could probably still go 8.5, maybe a 9, depending if it did not break color, but this is a really heavy one. As you can see, the ink is completely broken. It's just a solid white line.
I know you said it was your own, did you press it?
No, so that's going to be my next thing. About the 9.4 I showed you guys, with the finger bends, the cluster of finger bends, none of them broke color. So that is a defect that if you use CCS, we could probably press out and maximize the potential of the grade. Most likely you can get an ID. Finger bends, any type of non-color breaking defects on book. CCS pressing can fix. This unfortunately would not be one of those books. There's no coming back from that. Yes?
How many books do you grade in a day?
Depends. We have people that grade anywhere from 125 a day to over 500. So obviously, your Gold Age books, a lot more labor intensive for Silver Age, page counts, checking for marble value stamps, restoration checks. So certain books tend to take a lot longer. But some books, brand new books, you can look at in seconds.
Yeah.
Just make sure that the posters are there, the inserts are there, the books are supposed to be what they are. And, when we get bulk pre-screens from publishers directly, it just take a matter of seconds.
Is it all manual, or do you have, I don't know, AI or anything that's coming in?
The only type of software like that we use is for identifying variants and stuff like that. But everything is done by hand, by us. Every book is looked at by a minimum of 2 professionals. Our quality control team, everybody's trained how to handle what to look for, and our grading process doesn't end until the books ship. So once they go through encapsulation, they're basically regraded again in quality control to make sure the books reflect the grade that's on the label, and then they're out the door. Yes?
Do you have like your own database or something like that
We do.
for each book?
We
on
do,
what
and
you're-
we have our own database, and every book that we've graded, we take images of. So we have scans of every cover, what every cover looks like, and that's all done manually. Eventually, we get to the point where we can have some software that would take some of that manual work out. But yeah, we have a massive database. How many books have we graded now? Are we up to? Something like that? Yeah, so we have millions of books on our system. And what we do too is we communicate with each other via our Pro4 system. So when the pre-grader will get a book, for example, he'll take the notes, and the notes come in handy. So when they go to the final grader, the grader's like, okay, I'm at an 85. We'll put an 85, and then he pulls up the grade, the pre-grader's grade. It's like, wait, the pre-grader is 7.5. What am I missing? And then we can go in, look at the notes, and say, oh, there's a stain right here, or there's a spine split, or there's a tear. So we help each other out by communicating through the note system. Yes.
You can also go on Go Collect and find how many CGs of a certain book CGC has on record.
Yeah, we actually do have a census too, and our census, the really cool thing about our census on our website, is we now break it out by signers too, by 6 series. So you can click on, like, let's say Spidey 300, and then you can see how many 9/8s are signed by Stan Lee, Todd McFarlane, David Michelini. Like, you can see everything is all broken down, so it's pretty exciting. And we're eventually going to do pedigrees as well. We'll be able to break it out and search by pedigree books. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more.
Of course.
You now have, you use another company for this, I think, but you can now get unwitness signatures verified too, right?
Yeah, we purchased JSA a few years back, so they are part of our umbrella now. So we do,
Okay.
signature authentication. So you guys are familiar with our signature series program? So if you have books that are already signed, a lot of this we did because back in the day when we launched, people like Jack Kirby had already passed away. So people really wanted to get their Jack Kirby signatures authenticated. So by bringing this company in, we have a great reputation, we're now able to authenticate the signatures. So unlike our signature series where you have to have it witnessed, if you bring it to JSA, we'll authenticate it, and then it'll get kind of similar to the signature series label, except it's got a black bar across, and it'll state Jack Kirby authenticated autograph. So it's a really great service that we have part of us now. Yes?
Not necessarily a question, just more like a suggestion.
Yeah, sure.
Especially with the JSA now that they're authenticating. Like back in the day, obviously in the 70s, so they got like Jack Kirby and all them, they would sign on the interior on the very first page. And if there was a way that they could, maybe y'all could possibly
Photograph that. We have been talking about that. That's something I would love to do.
That would help out, because it's nice to have it authenticated, but if you can never see it again, it's like.
Well, we have a QR code on the back of our label where you can scan it to look up the notes on the book, so I'd love to be able to incorporate something like that into it. So stay tuned, you know, it's definitely, we're all fans and we're collectors too, so we love to enhance that overall experience the best we can for you guys.
Right.
Yes?
What's the coolest book you graded?
It's gotta be the $15 million Action 1.
Yeah.
You graded that?
It was in my hands. Yep.
Wow.
It's moments like that, like I've seen quite a few of like the toughest books on the planet, but we never, we'll always have those moments where, hey guys, look what's here, and everybody kind of gets up with bated breath and they walk over the, we're all fans, so yeah, it's definitely gotta be an Action. Seeing stuff like that is just absolutely amazing. Yes?
Got a question for you. So when you talk about the signature series, and then you got your verified signatures. So let's say you have 9 or 10 signatures on one book because you were able to get all the run. What if you have a mixture of both? So what dictates whether you get the yellow label or the black label?
So if the signatures are witnessed by one of us, it'll get the yellow label, and then the JSA will do the rest of the authentication. It'll all still be on the same label, won't affect the grade, and then some will just say signed by so-and-so on this date, and then the other will just say Jack Kirby authenticated autograph.
So it'll always be a black label, even if 8 of them were witnessed, and you had one that was certified, that'll always be a black label, but it'll say the other ones are, okay.
Yep. Yes?
Shawn, does a pedigree book enhance the grading process? In other words, are you more apt to be looking at it as far as the upgrade?
Not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily. You know, at the end of the day, a book is what it is, regardless of where it came from.
Got it.
So, I think the cool factor of pedigrees, are you guys familiar with pedigrees? Especially like one of my favorites, obviously, the Mile High.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest things about the Mile High collection is the cedar smell. So whenever you get one, because they were stored in cedar boxes, and getting to open them up and smell the pages. You know, you guys have that thing where you go to like Barnes & Noble, just smell the bookstores, like I love the smell of paper. The cedar smell of that paper, so I love that kind of stuff. I mean, where it came from too, like the Gaines file copies for EC's books. Just know that they were William Gaines's file copies that he took and put and kept in a vault, and just really cool. This stuff's really neat. But no, we'll just grade a comic as is.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
How do you guys gauge a weekend like this where you're doing on-site grading? How do you anticipate we're going to bring 20 graders with us, we're going to bring 40?
That's a great question. We just kind of base it on our past experience. You know, like last year, we just analyzed, you know, what type of submissions we got in last year. Was a majority vintage versus modern? That way we decided, do we bring more vintage graders versus modern graders? Do we bring more witnesses for signature series? So we kind of based it on past historical facts. Like last year, I think, we graded an awful lot of books, but we do have a cutoff. There is like only a maximum, because we're doing basically what we would normally do at the office in a matter of days. That would take us normally a lot longer than that. So we usually cut it off at a certain point just because we can't, in capacity, we just can't handle any more of that without sacrificing quality.
Have you ever considered, I know you guys have done a lot of, meet the grader and things like that, IG and things like that, kind of pulling back the curtain at a show like this and kind of see the setup?
Yeah, definitely. That's why we like doing these panels. I like kind of pulling back the curtain, getting a chance to meet everybody, just kind of talk about what we do. I try and be at the booth as much as I can, so does Matt when we're doing not doing on-site shows, and just love that one-on-one interaction. We did film a lot of educational videos on our YouTube channel, so we do have stuff that breaks down like defects, like fingerprints, all that kind of stuff. And I think Matt even filmed a really long video with the Hulk 181, the grading process. So we try and be as vocal as we possibly can and educating. We threw a grading seminar in Tampa, a grading academy, where we invited people over. And it was, how many people was it? It was 100 people. And we got to do this. It was like a whole seminar where we had classes and sit downs. And I mean, it's one of the things, my favorite part about this job, other than seeing the comics, just educating people how to grade. It's one of my favorite things. Yes?
How did you get involved in doing this?
So me personally, so I've been with the company for 26 years now, almost from the beginning. Honestly, I just replied to an ad in a newspaper in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey, and I applied for an ad. It said, like comic books, and I started in the encapsulation department. And I worked in encapsulation, printing up labels, and then I met Steve Warrock and Mark Haskell, who were our president and vice president initially when we first formed. And the knowledge those guys had, I would punch out from my job and go and sit with them and learn. And we were actually doing Gaines file copies. We were doing all these high-grade EC comics. I got to see all these 9/8 Tales from the Crypts and like just amazing stuff that blew my mind. But I just sat and I learned with these guys and I just worked my way up. Yeah, I love what I do.
Great.
Anybody else? All right, so I want to show you, speaking of which, is anybody familiar with Absolute Batman? It seems to be the big thing. I think Scott Snyder's line has not died down once at all this entire time. We are actually, here's an example. We are, first time only for on-site grading, we're actually offering a custom label at the show. So if you guys are interested, if you want to submit your books, we just launched this label last week. And if you're doing on-site grading, it is available for on-site grading. So it's kind of a cool book. This is a Signature Series book, and it's got the whole team signed on it. I actually thought this was a giveaway at first, and it's just an example. And they were like, no, don't give it away, because it's one of our employees. And they would give our token. So. But yeah, any questions? It's kind of like any great questions about grades and defects, and I'm more than happy to talk about anything you got.
Yeah, out of curiosity, what would I guess a downgrade for a book be? It's probably, like, just looking at it, it's probably around like an 8.0 to a 7.5. But the inside center, the bottom is detached from the staple. The top one is attached.
Okay.
The bottom one is detached. Other than that, the book would grade like around 7.5 to 8 if it didn't have that.
So now there are defects that once you hit a certain grade level, defects won't count against a book that much, or if at all. So like for example, let's say if I have a book that's a 7.0 or 7.5 already, and it's got some bends on it or stains, none of that stuff will really count towards the book at that point because it's already low enough. But with our qualified label that I mentioned earlier, that's something that we could possibly qualify the book for. So we'll give it a green label, state that the bottom staple is detached, and I actually have an example here. I don't know if you can see it through the bag. See that puppy? That is a pop staple. Let me take that in the bag. There we go. So that's a bottom staple that's attached from the cover. Now, right off the bat, if I was going to grade this a blue label book, this would probably be around a 7.5 if it was a 9 otherwise. That's how big of a hit we take. But we would give it a qualified grade. So this way we would state that the staple's detached. So the book is a 9.0 otherwise.
How do you decide that though? Because I'll be honest with you, I would rather have a 7.5 blue than a 9
So
green.
what we do now is if we do qualify it, we put the universal grade on the label as well. That's something we just started doing a couple weeks ago. So we'll give it a green. You can always send it back if you don't want the green label, we'll just downgrade for it, but we do put both grades.
Like, for example, like I already know that defect is on there, for example, and I'm actually bringing the book today for y'all to take back. I mean, is there a way I can just say, hey, is there a way y'all can notate?
Well, you said it's in the sevens already.
No matter what.
We will only qualify a book up to a certain grade, down to a certain grade. So like once you hit that 7.0 range, if it's below that, we'll just downgrade for it. We won't qualify it at all.
Okay.
But yeah, if you just maybe want to put a note on it saying you prefer the blue label.
Yeah, like you said, I don't.
But you will get both
be high
grades.
enough to, like you said, qualified. So
Yeah.
probably just universal.
Just take universal grade.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the biggest mistake people make in packaging and shipping their books to CDs?
That's a good question. Honestly, I mean, we've gotten books sent to us in a bulk mailer without a bag of word. We had one person, he had a Silver Age Spider-Man collection. This is gonna hurt. And he didn't want the books to get damaged in shipping, so he taped them to sheets of cardboard. Not bags. He actually taped the books to the boards. There was like Spidey 2, 3, 4. They were low grade, which kind of worked against him because the fact that they were so low grade to begin with, there was no way the tape was coming off clean without taking half the cover off.
Is that an example of something you would reject?
Yeah, we would initially, if we got something like that, we would automatically contact you right off the bat. And everything's under, we have Big Brother everywhere, so as soon as the boxes are open under cameras, and that's one of the things, as soon as you get something like that, you hold it up the camera just to show it, and then we'll contact customer service, and they will contact you right away.
And call you stupid? Or
We reserve judgment. But we've had other things too, where you would tape a book to a backboard, and if you're using a Mylar, be careful, because if it shifts in transit, it'll slide out, and then it can slide out to where you taped it on that open edge. We've seen that as well. But yeah, just we prefer what I call like sandwiching, like float it. So you wrap it in something, surround it with bubble wrap, and then you put it in a bigger box, surround that with bubble wrap. So that way the book doesn't have, it's got no way of hitting the wall of the box. The corners won't hit. If somebody drops it, you have some leeway, there's some cushion there.
Have you seen any cases where like Mylar or any other plastic sleeving has actually scratched?
Not scratched, but what we do see are tears on the bottom of the book. From when you slide it back in, if you don't lift that Mylar top up and curl it, and you slide it in, sometimes that Mylar edge will catch the books. So you just gotta be mindful of that. That's really all we see. As far as scratching, with newer books like foil covers, if people use Mylars, I tend to see scratches on foils from that. It's not so much from the Mylar itself, it's usually from like dust or some kind of dirt that gets in it that rubs against the Mylar. So
A lot of times the Mylars will, like especially on the edges at the bottom, how they're manufactured or gets whatever, they're almost like really rigid at the bottom. Like
yes.
that. And if you put them in, if they go too far down, it actually starts bending.
It'll pitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yes.
Is there any nuance in grading Golden Age versus Silver Age versus Bronze versus Modern? Or is a 4 a 4? Or
For the
again,
most
is there
part,
any difference in age?
not really. I mean, what we do is, when it comes to age of comics, we factor in what it was like at that time. Paper stock, metals used, like we know in Golden Age, you know, they only had one staple during metal shortages. So there's a lot of factors we put into where they come from. Like new books now, they're printed mint. You know, they're coming right off the print. Books back then, they weren't like that. So we do factor in things like marble chipping. You know, that's something that we're kind of looser about. That's just at the end of the day, back then the blades were dull. So we don't hit books for that. We keep that in consideration. Yes.
I remember years ago, you guys were grading a Walking Dead #1. It was in the backseat of a guy's car for like a dozen years. It was roached down as whatever, graded a 0.5. To that point, like, what is the grossest book you've ever read?
I had the, I can smell it just talking about it. I had to grade a collection of books that were used to write a litter box. So, if anyone's familiar with the smell of cat urine, it's very potent. Yes, thank you, great question. Thank you for reminding me.
Could you still smell it when it was encapsulated?
They wanted to, because I mean, they were Silver Age books, so they were key books. It was like a Spiny 2, and yeah. I don't know the full story, but it was definitely used to line a litter box. But I mean, even a book like that, a 1.0, they're still worth getting done. They still suffer something. But yeah, it's disgusting. Yes.
Would you give that collection of pedigree to itself? Like,
The cat urine collection? I feel like that would be us making fun of the customer. I wouldn't want to do that. So we don't judge, we just grade. It's just fun. Yes.
Is it advantageous to have your book pressed before you send it in for grading?
I would recommend it. I mean, it doesn't hurt. And pressing, especially with UCCS, it's cheap enough where I always recommend people, if they crack books out or if they get books signed, to get it pressed beforehand, before they do it, because you never know when the book's raw, what could happen to it. If the artist, I've seen some instances where people will go to sign a book and they have a watch, and the watch puts the indent on the book, and just, it doesn't hurt.
Can you press a book after it's signed, like with a
Yeah,
Sharpie?
yeah.
How about the silver pens?
Yes.
You can.
So, I mean, I know other people have different methods of pressing. Some people use moisture, some people use heat. We do not use that. So our methods of pressing are safe with any type of marker. Unless you get to like, you know, people use those like paint gel pens.
Yeah.
That's kind of hit or miss, because we had an instance where we did a signing with Todd McFarlane and he had signed with a certain type of reacting. It just didn't sit well. But we don't use those pens anymore. And when we have signings, we will not let them sign with those markers.
Okay.
But yeah, there are some pressers out there that use heat and moisture. That could affect it. So just do the research and just ask ahead of time before you submit books to whoever's going to press them, just to make sure what methods are used, just in case. Yes?
So so I know you guys have a lot of facilitators that you guys have authorized for your facilitator. A lot of those offer, you know, pressing and grading and cleaning and stuff. Do those get regulated by you or by CGC?
Yes.
So if you get it cleaned or pressed from them, it'll be the same as if we were getting it through you, the same type of, or do you recommend getting them to expedite or to facilitate?
I mean, of course, I would always tell you, I recommend submitting it to us, just so we can get the business. But yeah, I mean, we deal with that all the time. And there are people that press really well out there. There are people who do a really good job. And there are people that don't do a good job. You know, we've seen cases too where books shrink
Well,
So if they're used with moisture and they're not pressed properly, they will shrink upon the drying process. And what happens is the paper shrinks this way, and you'll see it because the pages from inside the book will be sticking out. The cover will actually shrink. And usually in a situation like that, it shrinks top and bottom, shrinks in like this, and then it expands right to left. So you start to notice an overhang on the paper on the open edge. Yeah. We don't get it that often, because I think most people learn the hard way, unfortunately. Some people will press and they press it properly. When they get the books back, they'll be like, what the hell happened? And then we'll explain to them, oh, well, this was done this, and they understand, they learn from it. Anybody else? All right, let's see, let's do another trivia. Let's see, I'm trying to think. I don't want it to be too easy. What's the first appearance of Venom?
Spider-Man 300.
Is that right? Yep.
Spider-Man 300.
Yes. There you go. You take a technical. I know they don't get a technical. The cameos.
It makes for a good question. Why are some cameos and other first appearances? Wolverine is a great example.
Oh man. Oh, it's like the forever debate about. We identify a first appearance by first full appearance. We let people kind of determine whatever they want, but a Hulk 180. What do we say? Wolverine cameo in last page, I think is how we say it.
Yep.
So we're trying to tread water slightly without upsetting anybody. We try our best to. Yeah. One of the crazy ones too is Harley Quinn, because we got first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity, first appearance of Harley Quinn out of DC continuity, because you got the cartoon, the comic character, and everybody wants their book to be the first appearance of this person. So trying to meet in the middle as much as we can. Yes.
So I submitted to you guys the G.I. Joe 22. Is that gonna say first appearance of Duke and Roadblock on it?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if we had that. I don't have access to our system, but it's something, if you don't have that, you can always send for a reholder, and we can add that to the label.
Okay. I sent it to you guys yesterday, so.
Okay. What I recommend too, if you guys ever have situations like that, if we don't have something on the label, when you submit it, just put a note on it, a little post-it, and it'll usually make it to us, and then we'll see that, and we'll do some research. The big one for us that we get a lot is the Star Wars books. So everybody, Star Wars continuity, there's a no-name character that was from a Dark Horse book 25 years ago that now all of a sudden's on Disney, and everybody wants that character's name put on the label. So we try our best, but I recommend if there is a comment that you guys do want on the label, maybe just put a note, just to communicate with us. Anybody else?
How much effect does color rubs have on the books?
That's a great question. So, especially if you notice like the print quality on Marvel books, if you go back to your collection, take some newer Marvel books out and look at the backboard, you'd be surprised that the ink from the back cover actually rubs off on the backboard. They're unstable inks, not so much with more of your glossy stock books, but a lot of like the Marvel where it's kind of that type of paper, the ink comes off. We're not super strict on it. Usually the rubbing's by the staples on the back cover, the top and bottom staple around that staple indent. If you have color missing or color rub around maybe one staple, you could probably still get a 9.8, but once you get both, you're probably starting at a 9.6 from there.
Oh, over
here. Yeah.
I have a question about color touch.
Okay.
Like, what is the difference between someone actually trying to fix a color and a kid in the 70s taking a ball pen and just filling in?
It's a great question. That's why we have the rating system for it. So we have for our restos broken out in categories, amateur and professional, and we're now rated like A1, B1, C1.
So even if a kid just draws on it?
If he draws on it, we'll just treat it as a defect. But if somebody's trying to change the overall appearance or enhance the appearance, even if it is a kid just kind of touching up the black spine, we would hit that as coverage. But coloring in a puzzle, drawing a picture, that's something we just treat as a defect. And if it's an inside of the book, we wouldn't hit it very hard.
So like coloring in Spider-Man's outer eye?
No, we would treat it as a defect. Yeah, we have a lot of kids that would draw like in the logo, like draw Spider-Man, like the spider webbing in the logo, and yeah, we would just knock down here for that as a defect. We wouldn't hit that for restoration. But if the intent is there, if somebody was trying to enhance the overall appearance of the book, then we would have to hit it. And then how we hit it is all based on materials used. So if it's amateur, it's most likely used by Sharpie. And then you get to your more professional levels where we use acrylic, pencils, and we break that out. So, because everybody always had a negative stigma with the purple label, and it's like, look, if a book's restored and it's done properly and done well, you're trying to preserve it. So that shouldn't really hit the book. That's why we broke out that category and did a rating system for the actual restoration. We grade the restoration. Oh yeah, that will just treat as a defect. Yeah, we'll just treat that as a defect. We wouldn't hit that much. Yes?
Do all reholders get regraded?
No. So they will be checked to make sure that there's nothing wrong with them, that they weren't damaged, if they were dropped or anything like that, they will be checked. And usually in a situation like that, if the book was damaged inside the holder, you would be contacted right away, and then we would let you know we would work out something, probably press the book to get to where it was.
But just an older, I have 25-year-old books.
Yeah, no, we'll just check it to make sure the book is still reflective of the grade that's on the label. We'll just double check it for, to make sure it is what it is, but overall, it just gets reholdered. And those old labels are great too. A lot of people experience a really good page quality bump. So apparently, I was told that we were tougher with page quality back in the early 2000s. So if you have some off-white or off-white to whites, you get some bumps to off-white to white or white pages. Yes?
What is, I guess, your threshold, I guess, for, I have an example, I have a Golden Age book that evidently had gotten glued on part of the corner, yeah. And so it got the purple label. I've seen online, I've seen other people have books, and it says on the label, it's a universal grade, but it says
minor.
Like it says glued, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
why was mine purple?
It depends on the color touch. So for Golden Age books, if it's minor amount of color touch, it would still get a blue label. But if it's enough glue for us to hit it, then we would bump it up. Because it was really common for a lot of Golden Age books to have little dots of glue on the spine. So I don't know if you want that reviewed. Is it a type of glue that can come off? Do you know what type of?
No, actually, I sent it to, I can't remember their names, but like a good reputable.
Looked at to be removed.
And they said they had to literally cut the.
That most likely means it's the amount of glue used. If it was just a little dot, a little touch, we would still give it glue. But
Right, yeah, I think it's like the bottom,
yeah,
probably like an inch or two.
That's why.
They glued that at the bottom, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's probably just the amount, I
The
guess,
amount,
somebody else.
yep.
Okay.
And you'll see it too, because blue label will usually always say minor amount of color touch or minor amount of glue cover. Yes?
What's the certification process to become a CDC grader?
Well, what's funny is we usually take from in-house. We train talent in-house. We encourage that. I actually taught classes where I trained about 15 graders. And we set aside a 3-month period where they would sit, we were in a classroom setting, hands-on, and we just went over the grade range. And we just, the only way you can do it is by seeing them every day. Looking through hundreds of books and being able to not only spot defects, but then once you spot a defect, how hard do you hit it because of that defect? And we do have tools too, resources, other than open communication with each other, where we do pass books around a lot and talk about things, but we do have tools for us to utilize that certain grade ranges and certain defects, you can actually almost kind of mathematically equate it, where you're allowed X number of spine stress lines, this would make it a 9.4, this would make it a 9.2. Once you get into the lower grade ranges and a lot more environmental defects like water damage, mold, that kind of stuff, then it becomes more of a eye appeal. Yes?
Specific question, printing error, cover, and it looks like the picture's been shunted up, the drawing's been shunted up, and there's a white line at the bottom, 1/8 of an inch. How do you guys treat that?
Usually, if it's severe, we'll call the manufacturing error and do a manufacturer with cover printed off register. It won't affect the grade. If it's minor, if it's just like the bottom edge is a little off, maybe it'll keep it at a 9.8, but it's still, we wouldn't kill it for it. We keep manufacturing defects in consideration. Especially with new books. New books is a constant cycle for us, making sure, like after Batman 20s that came out, everybody was all up in arms about them being distributed with defects on it. So what we do is we kind of create a curve. If certain books we know are notorious for having binder tears, then those books can still get a 9.8 because it's consistent with the entire print run. Yes?
How often do you see manufacturing defects?
To that extent?
Just in general?
Just in general? Almost every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they more common with older books or more common with newer books?
Newer books, really. Yeah, newer books are more common. Older books, really, the only type of defects we got with the older stuff is just miscut because of the way the blade was towards the end. But yeah, we get some pretty crazy ones. We get foil covers where they just didn't print the foil on it. kind of neat. Some of that stuff's really cool. I graded one a couple weeks ago where the entire interior was blank. It's really cool, and I would love to buy these, but if you go ahead and look them up, do CGC Manufacturing Error on eBay and look up some weird manufacturing defects. Those books sell for a lot of money. I graded a Uncanny X-Men 350 that had the wrong foil stamped on it. I think it was 350, and it sold for like $3,000. And it's a book that's like $20, and just because it has that defect.
So
Yes.
so they're like mules with coin collectors, like when a quarter has a penny tail on it or something?
Yeah, or it's like a misstamp, like the president head's a little off, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those people, they are highly collectible.
Yeah.
And another thing too is people collect the books with the Mark Jewelers inserts that were sold, yeah. Yep. Yes.
Is a double cover considered a manufacturing defect?
No, so with a double cover, we would grade both covers. So you would get both covers, and then the final grade would be the higher of the two. So we would state double cover, first cover 9.6, second cover 9.8, and then we'll get a 90. And we've seen some pretty crazy ones. I did Iron Man 1 that had 9. Silver Age Iron Man 1 had 9 covers. I remember we took it out of the bag, and I'm holding my hand, I'm like, why the heck is this thing so heavy? And I'm like, cover. This is crazy. Yeah, we've seen pretty wild stuff. And again, I'm a nerd about that kind of stuff. I love the little rare defects like that. They're really cool. Yes?
You Shawn, pre-direct sale books, the old days, 60s. I have a number of books that has a horizontal crease, must be the wire. I assume it's from the wire when distributors.
Yeah, from the bundles, when they would bundle and they would wrap them in wire.
Yeah, and I don't really see anything that matched up in the grading hardcover to that. You know,
You can treat that as
a nice book, but sometimes it might break color a little bit, other times usually it doesn't. What is that? How's that affect?
We would hit that. We would call it an indent. So if you look at the book under indent, it would just be an indent that forms a line. We would downgrade for that. But that is a defect. That's a great defect that can press out. So yeah, comics back then, they were wrapped in bundles and then just tossed. And so we see a lot of comics where it has either the cross from the wrap of it or just one. That's a defect that we do recommend that you can press. That will definitely enhance the press. But yeah, we would downgrade for that. Usually, if the book's overall structurally like a 9.6, you're probably looking, depending on how big, 7s and going down from there. Yes?
How do you grade a subscription copy like Gold Key used to fold them in half, or inside, and then put
We
them in
unfortunately hit it for a crease. So if it's got a subscription crease, because books were literally folded in half, just put it in an envelope and mailed to you. And those books would start at a 6.0 or a 6.5 and go down from there. And unfortunately, with a lot of those sub creases, they break color because they were so folded in.
Oh yeah, I mean they're
you can't just press, not even pressing the handle that. Yes.
So given that the manufacturing process of comic books, there are tolerances, plus and minuses.
Yes.
So let's say books from the 50s. How difficult is it to tell if the book has been trimmed?
That's a great question. So with trimming, when a book is cut, it's going to have the entire edge is going to repeat all the way through. So you're going to have your peaks and valleys all the way through on the edges of the book. And usually when they're trimmed, it looks like a guillotine. You can tell. There's two ways to tell. If it's chopped, it'll be completely clean. And you'll, I'm trying to think, arrival stamps or distributor marks, you'll see that ink that's supposed to go through the top edge of the book, there will be a section of that book where it's not there. And then we have others where if you're trimmed, your hand's not perfect. So as you're trimming a book, or if, I don't recommend anybody trim a book, but you can you'll see a stop and go pattern. Where you'll see, you look at a line, it should be a long, consistent line with peaks and valleys that repeat from the front cover all the way to the back cover. And everything should be completely lined up straight. And if you fan it out like this, and you see any inconsistencies where one edge doesn't match the other, that's usually a telltale sign.
Well, I'm concerned about books because of the tolerances involved in manufacturing. That, what tolerance do you accept? If it's a 32nd of an inch or less?
I mean, we can tell if it's done manufacturing-wise or if it's done by hand.
But even if it's just manufacturing, because they do vary very slightly from copy to copy over the entire run.
Yes. Yeah, we have a team that can identify miscuts based on, or whether a book's been trimmed or cut by a manufacturer. Yes?
Kind of in that same vein, some books I have from the 80s, the inner pages, there was one that was folded over, and when you unfold it, it actually expands beyond the edge of the book. Talk to me about that.
Okay, so that's really common. We see that a lot. When we grade books like that, we would actually keep it folded over, because if we pulled it out, it wouldn't fit in the holder. It wouldn't be able to safely go in the holder. Yeah, it's just a miscut when they're wrapping the book.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a manufacturer defect.
We wouldn't downgrade for it. Usually the only time we'll downgrade for it is if it creates an indent or a bend on the outside of the book. If it's thick enough, if it's a bunch of pages, we'll downgrade for that little bend line along the front cover. All right, anything else?
What's your thresholds once you start going down from the 8s and 9, you down to 7, 6? Is there like a certain area that's just gonna drop you below that next?
Like a certain type of defect that will do that?
Yeah, defect, yeah.
Yes.
How do you go from like a 6 to a 4, let's say?
Usually stains, splits, tears. Usually those are the defects that will definitely take down. Like a spine split on a book, you can start a book at a 5 automatically. The book can be beautiful. If you have a 3-inch spine split, you're already looking at 5s. Staining, we've had books that, somebody's flooded basement, 3-0, you're gonna start at 3 or 4. And like I said, a lot of defects stop counting towards the grade once you hit a certain threshold. So like your spine stress, your bends, those type of defects that are pretty minimal, they'll kind of max out around 7 range. Once you get below 7, they'll have minimal effect towards the grade, because you're already in that grade range to begin with. Yes?
Fading, what is fading?
That's a good question. So cover fading, depending on the severity. We have books where somebody will put it in the store window and the colors completely drag out. That would be a significant drop. That would probably start around the 5s. But we have some where, if you had a book sticking out of a box and the sun hit it, it's just the top edge, you could probably start at an 8-0 for a fade like that. But yeah, it depends on how muted the colors are. If the colors are still there, if it's a slight fade, like with sun shadow, that kind of thing, you'd still be a little higher up. But then yeah, once you get to like full color fades and the color's missing, you'd probably be in the mid-grade range automatically.
Is that the same way for the dust shadows and stuff?
Yes. Yep. Yes.
If you have a color, like a book that's been altered by a pencil, is it better just erase it or just leave it?
I just leave it. Yeah, because sometimes in situations like that, we've had too many situations where somebody goes to erase an arrival stamp, and then by then, if you erase it, you're taking the color off the book too. So you're doing more harm than you are good for it, so just leave it. Yes?
Going back to the faded cover, how do you know it happens after it's already encapsulated? If it's over a 5, does that mean it did happen after?
Well, I mean, you would know because it would be on notes. So if you had a book graded and it was a 9.6 and now it's faded, obviously somebody kept it.
Well, obviously 9.6,
yeah.
but what about like a 6.5 and it's faded? It would be in the notes.
It would be in the notes.
Okay.
Yep, it would be in the notes.
Fingerprints on covers.
Fingerprints. Okay, so we have a couple of different versions of fingerprints. We have the over the surface fingerprints, like on your foils. If people had some Doritos and touch your book and had a little oily fingerprints, those we wipe off. We try our best, because if we get a book that came from you guys that has fingerprints on the cover, we didn't wipe it off, it's going to make it look like we did it. So we do take care of all the collectibles, make sure they look as nice as possible. But then you have the fingerprints where you have somebody standing in line to go meet their favorite artist, and they're a little nervous, so they're holding the book, their hands a little sweaty, and you got to start to get the ink lift. Once that color starts coming off, that's when you're going to drop significantly. So a book with over the surface fingerprints, you could probably still be in the low 9 range, like a 9.0 or 9.2 for a small cluster, maybe 1. But as soon as that color breaks, you're automatically starting at 8.5 and going down depending on how many more are there. Yes?
So I submitted an Infinity #1 yesterday that I got signed by Starlin, Rubenstein, and DeFalco. And one thing I noticed as I was flipping through it before I came here is there were some nicks in the corner of some of the pages, and it looked to me like a manufacturing defect.
I was just going to say, it's a cut. It's a manufacturing cut.
Okay, and I can't be certain, but you can.
It's common. So in our grading system too, we have an area where we communicate about common defects on our book that are notorious for print run. So that way when it comes to a grader, they'll see that there saying, hey, this is common for this print run. So that way we know to either A, grade on a curve, or B, just completely ignore it. But yeah, that is a book that's known for that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes?
I have a question. In regards to like the golden age and all that, how much time and experience do you have to be able to be a grader?
A lot. So, especially with restored books, because we have books that people will Frankenstein them, put together a wrong back cover on a book just to be complete, and you have to have that knowledge. You have to know what you're looking for, like a certain ad on a back page. You have to know the page counts. So what books are 16 wraps, what books are 12 wraps, value stamps, so it takes time, but it's stuff that we do educate, we do teach. We do have a younger generation of people coming in that are learning the golden age stuff, which is really cool to see. But yeah, it does take time. Yes?
Is there anything you can do about smoke damage?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay, like, I mean, I sell some CGCs and raw on eBay and like out of direct sunlight in a smoke-free household, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, and we've had some books too, like, we've had people send books in that, unfortunately, house fires. Yeah, and the holders do their best to protect the book, but you can't do nothing to fight that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was water damage too from the fire department putting the fire out, and then also melted, and smoke damage, and yeah, unfortunate.
Well, Stan Lee was at my house for dinner when it happened.
That's a cool story.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
How do you go about trying to clean the books? I mean, what do you use?
Well, as far as cleaning, we don't clean books.
I mean, like the fingerprints, you said.
Oh, fingerprints, just a tissue. It's something like that. It's not going to hurt, like a soft cloth, like a microfiber cloth. Won't scratch a book. As long as you're not using something that's abrasive. But yeah, just wipe it and buff it off. It'll come off really easy. Just go in circular motion. Just test. Some of those Kleenexes or some of those tissues can be like the cheap, kind of gritty kind. I wouldn't use those. Yeah, I wouldn't use those. Try and find. We use microfiber cloths. Anyone else? Yes.
Have you or you've known somebody who damaged a comic during grading? What is the problem?
It happens. I mean, we're human beings. So over all of our grading desks, we have cameras. So we have a very open, honest policy in our building. So all of our employees know that if it does happen, you need to speak up. You're not going to get in trouble. We'll figure it out. But everything's on camera, and we're fully insured. It doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened in the past, and we always make it right. We'll take care of it. We'll buy the book, cover the insurance cost. But we're very open about that. We will be contacted right away if that were the case. Yes.
Along those same lines, I get all my books obviously pressed before I send them in and everything else, and I remember getting a submission back not too long ago that the majority of them said finger bends. So I know
even after they were pressed,
like we had pressed them, sent them off, and when I got them all back, nothing was the grade I thought it should be because I looked at the books personally before I sent them, and I know that there was no fingerprints on anything. And the majority of my books came back, and the top thing for each one of those books was fingerprints. So my obviously idea is that it must have been the person who was grading it because I know they didn't go out that way. So what's, I guess, my recourse at that point, because I really don't have, I guess, a way of saying, okay, well, y'all must have did those. But I know how they got shipped out.
Okay.
So
is it books that were done recently?
Yes, like within the last year.
Okay. Are you going to be at the show today? That's a situation that maybe we can talk about after the fact. I can give you my card, you can reach out, and we can figure something out. But yeah, I mean, we will. I don't know if we have the footage back that far, but we can always check the cameras and make sure and see, double check it if what was there. We'll make it right. If you want to come by the booth, I'll be in the booth at 3.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Your main facilities in Tampa, right?
We're in Sarasota, Florida.
So, like, for hurricanes and stuff, what do you guys do with all the inventory that you have?
Well, our building, it's pretty crazy. We have ballistic windows. It's a concrete prison is what I always call it. My cell phone doesn't work. But we have a vault, a full concrete vault with a bank door. That building's very safe. Let's just say this, one of the last hurricanes, I went to the CDC building to sleep. But yes. Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. And I will leave some of the books up here.